Hi, everyone.
Hello. Hello, everyone. This is Petya and Brent. We've got a glitch here, so we're going to introduce the session. Petya, do you want to introduce yourself first?
Yes, yeah, maybe we start and we're just waiting for Winnie to join us as well, and she'll help us facilitate this. Yeah, hi everyone, very excited to be here. I might know some of you, but if not, sorry, Annalise, do you want to jump in first, maybe? No?
Only to say that I was the backup plan C or D in case Winnie had poor connection.
Okay.
So I'm very happy to go ahead and moderate if that's okay with everybody.
Perfect. All right.
So yeah, let me just go ahead with that. So I just wanted to start by welcoming you all to this session on the impact of AI and emerging technologies on IATI data. So unfortunately, Winnie wasn't able to join, but she may jump back in. But in any case, I'm here. So just generally, before we kick off, I wanted to give the floor back to Petya and then Cecilia, Sylvan, and Brent, so that you can all introduce yourselves. Why don't you go ahead with that? Back to you, Petya.
Thanks, Annalise. And hi, everyone. My name is Petya Kangalova, and I work now as a network and engagement lead at Humanitarian OpenStreetMap. I know probably most of you because I worked for quite a while in IATI. Very excited to be here today. I was going to be joined with one of our technical product owners on AI who is not able to join, but hopefully I'll share a lot of the knowledge. Really excited for this session, just to say I think we all talk a lot about AI, and really happy to join and kind of connect, when we talk about open data, but also open mapping, open geospatial data, and useful practices that I will share. Thanks, Annalise.
Thanks, Petya. Cecilia? Cecilia, are you there? Are you able to introduce yourself? Shall we go then to Sylvan, maybe while we find Cecilia?
Yeah, that's fine. Hi, everyone. I'm Sylvan. Some of you may remember me speaking about AI and large language model at the previous members assembly, maybe with a longer beard. I'm a software engineer, and I look forward to discussing IATI and AI again.
Thank you. And I still don't see Cecilia, but let's go ahead with Brent.
Hello, everyone. This is Brent. I joined Sylvan last year in Copenhagen, and we talked about large language models and ChatGPT. I manage humanitarian AI meetup groups in 15 cities, and most people know me through the Humanitarian AI Today podcast series, which our meetup community publishes. And it's super cool to be here, and all of you are amazing. I really admire everyone who works for IATI, and I'm honored to join the panel today.
That's great. I now see Winnie. So Winnie, if you are ready to take back on the role of moderator, please do go ahead. The only person we haven't been able to introduce as a speaker is Cecilia. So perhaps if Cecilia does come online, just raise a hand and speak in. Otherwise, please take the floor, Winnie.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm so sorry, I just stepped out a bit. I was telling the team that I'm currently at an AI conference that's currently being held in Arusha, Tanzania. And it's amazing because I'm the only one who's not a doctor or a professor inside here. So everyone is just calling each other professor, doctor. So the next time you see me, please make sure you call me a doctor or a professor. So welcome everyone to, this is a fifth virtual exchange that we've had. And I really appreciate you taking the time to join us. I'm sorry for the noisy background, but at some point I'll just have to request somebody to help me close the door so that we can continue having this conversation without a lot of interference. So my name is Winnie Kamau. I come from the Association of Freelance Journalists, and also a co-founder at the Africa Generative AI Lab, and IATI governing board member. Just give me a second, guys. And there's somebody who else had not introduced themselves. Who had not, sorry, now it's much better. Who had not introduced themselves in the group?
It was Cecilia
Amongst
who had not
the
yet
speakers?
introduced
Sorry,
herself.
guys.
Winnie,
Okay, cool. Okay,
you might just jump over to the housekeeping. Just letting people know that it's a fireside chat. So that's where you might want to take on.
Okay, cool. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your guidance and analysis. So we're gonna have a fireside chat, and we're gonna have a conversation with experts in the room in AI. And I know this is an emerging technology, or I mean, it's an emerging field, but people have been using AI for a long time. So, and I'm glad that I am amidst very amazing people who are in the field. But first of all, let's look at the housekeeping rules. And today's session will be a fireside chat. And we'll, instead of a series of many presentations, we'll have conversations, and hope they'll become candid. And we'll be able to dig deep into the issues that we're going to talk about. And we'll have a space at the end for questions and ideas that you would want us, all of us, to maybe to tackle, and even if you want collaboration on some of the projects that we can work on. And then feel free to submit those in the chat, your questions in the chat box, and we'll curate all this for you. Then the session also will be, there'll be a live interpretation for everyone, for those who do not and have a challenge maybe in French or any other language. So just kindly press the interpretation button, and you'll have somebody who will be able to assist you in the interpretation. It's quite simple. And thank you, team, for the good work that you're doing at the interpretation team. And then basically, I will just go through something that I realized from this conference that I'm currently attending, and we just finished in a few minutes ago. I bring to you the idea of us embracing the new technology. Before we dive in, it's important that for us at the IATI community to understand and engage with AI and emerging technologies that are there. And as we all know, either you're a member, even if you're a new member, or you're just visiting for this event, International AI Transparency Initiative, IATI, is a data initiative. The impact that the initiative has had so far has relied on openness to technical approaches and constant technical innovation and improvements, from building a data standard to providing tools for publishing and querying data, to the ongoing work of publishers that are done through the publishing that is done every day or weekly by different publishers to open and improve their data. We need to be aware of the technical developments so that we can understand the likely impact on IATI. So be ready, guys, to use the new tools to improve the impact of IATI, and so that we can invest in the right areas. AI technologies are currently attracting a great deal of attention, and that one can be seen from even this event that we've been here. We've had so many guys coming in from different parts of the country, of the continent, just to be part of this conversation on Africa AI. And And we have already had a successful session on ChatGPT at the last members assembly. We know there's lots of interest in the AI and a lot more to learn. So in short, I'm trying to ask us to openly discuss and understand and harness how and understand how we can harness the emerging technologies, the power of these emerging technologies, and the impact the IATI data ecosystem, the impact they will have on the IATI data ecosystem, in order to ensure that the IATI tools remain relevant for all of us. So without further ado, I would like to bring on stage my panelists, my very able panelists, who are here.
Just jumping in again, just before you were able to join, Winnie, we have been through and introduced everybody. I'm still not seeing Cecilia on screen, but you might just want to move along to the first really questions.
Okay.
I think the first one was for Brent, but go ahead, back to you.
So let's start by Petia. Was it Brent or Petia? Okay, so let's start with Brent. You can explain to us the different types of AI and the kinds of tasks that they can be used for. And also, I know I've been listening to your podcasts recently, and they're very interesting. And one of the guys who you recently interviewed is here, and he's one of the fathers I respect in IATI, Mr. John, Dr. John Adams. So kindly take the center stage.
Wow, thank you so much. And again, thank you everybody for allowing me to speak to you today. And I must admit, John is amazing. And Roderick Bessling, I don't know if you're here, but Roderick, you did a great job guest hosting John's interview. And so last year I spoke in Copenhagen about AI and ChatGPT, and I relied on Sylvain to actually share what is AI, because he's the smartest man in the room on the panel right now who could probably speak on this. But I'm going to elaborate on different types of machine learning models. But Sylvain, do you want to just give us a quick answer on what is AI?
It's a very difficult question, which I wish I had an AI to answer. But for me, as a software engineer, AI is a tool, like a digital maestro, that combines a bunch of, well, technically just algorithms, which can give us the pathway to getting from data to answers in whatever context that you want to fit your AI.
Thank you, Sylvain. And, you know, since ChatGPT was launched about a year ago, there's been a lot of excitement across the humanitarian community. And I think it's kind of realized a dream, a long-held dream of ours, to be able to take data and to just query it and just say, you know, who's working in Jordan right now? Who's working on maternal health in Jordan, and what do they need, and who's funding them, and how can I help? And, you know, we've been working on this problem for a long time, and thanks to the sophistication of AI and machine learning models, you know, we're getting really close to realizing this dream. But in terms of expertise about what is AI, you know, on the podcast, we actually refer to our guests to answer these questions. And as we mentioned, we had John Adams on the show, and Roderick, and we have Shadrach Roberts with Mercy Corps. He's going to be, you'll probably see him on the show next week, and some other amazing guests. And what I like to get across to people is, since, you know, we're all excited about generative AI and applications like ChatGPT, but prior to all this excitement, I think we had a lower view of AI. Like, we were excited about it, but I think we all recognized that it was just small individual models doing different things, and like puzzle pieces, and we just linked them together to do different things. And it was a slow moving advancement. but it's since moved really fast. And I think it's overshadowed, this movement's overshadowed different machine learning models that can analyze satellite imagery and translate languages and things like that. And so again, what I try to get across is that, it's not just ChatGPT. We actually have not only new large language models, which power applications like ChatGPT, but we have reasoning models and, again, text, language models and all these different types of applications. So it's nice to go back to that. But then looking forward again, these large language models have kind of taken over and they've become extremely sophisticated. And to kind of illustrate this, I'm sure everybody's familiar with Moore's law that kind of predicts the number of transistors on a microchip, and every 2 years it'll double. But right now we're looking at every 3 or 4 months, the power of a large language model tripling. And this is kind of a generalization, but this is how fast this is going. And these models are becoming more capable of answering a whole host of questions, including, as we pointed out in Copenhagen, including just asking about IATI data. And we've spent a huge amount of time building better APIs and data stores and ways of plugging into IATI, but these new models are capable of pretty much just accessing the bulk of the corpus and us being able to query it. So another thing I try to get across is that right now the market, there's a lot of advancements around these large language models, but the field is also fragmenting just as fast, and we're getting smaller models that can actually access IATI's API or reason better. Or Sylvan's group, they're looking at summarizing documents. We have models that are capable of summarizing documents and maybe creating a video about the summarization of what you're doing. And so the landscape is just moving really fast, and we're getting smaller models that are capable of kind of focusing on corporate data sets or data sets that are private and being able to dig into those. So in terms of what is AI, I think it's where we're headed is the ability to look at smaller and smaller data sets that are kind of walled off, or that are recognizable as credible. And I think this is going to impact IATI a great deal, as kind of like email back in I got started in humanitarian operations during Bosnia, and email was a big thing, and American Online kind of changed how we interact with email, and we kind of, because of it, we started attaching files and things like that to our emails. And similarly, the sophistication of these large language models and AI applications will enable us to interact with IATI differently, and it'll incentivize us to report more information through IATI because it's a channel that these large language models and other models can access and traverse. So this is kind of a short introduction to what is IATI and what is AI and how it's relevant to IATI. But I think it's important to realize that no matter what we're doing on our side, technology is advancing, and these capabilities of drilling into IATI data are just growing really fast. And people are working on these models right now. Currently, we're good. Yeah. And,
I totally understand you, Brent. I mean, you're a communicator, you're an orator, and you're passionate about AI. So I know and I feel you that you can be able to take this to the next level in terms of just talking about AI and what it can do, and in terms of IATI. So I go over to you, Sylvan, and I really understand. I mean, we've talked about what AI can do in terms of IATI. Sylvan, why is IATI such a big deal for people interested in using AI techniques to improve development effectiveness?
Well, you can split that question around in two ways. You can ask, why is IATI a big deal for people interested in AI? But also, why is AI interesting for people in IATI? And I guess some of the major things that we can think about in development effectiveness are things like using natural language processing, like we talked about previously, for just having someone that isn't very connected to the whole internet, doesn't know how to write a query, just for them to be able to have one entry point, fill in a little sentence, who is helping on the ground in Kenya at this moment, or something along those lines, a very contextual sentence, and then converting that to actually finding information within the IATI dataset, and maybe even linking that to external data sources as well. You can think about using predictive analysis, enabling us to identify risk areas, or helping us to support proactive decision making, identifying areas that need more funding, or conversely helping funders find areas that need more funding. So it's all of these tools can be used in two directions. We could even think about using AI for fraud detection. Maybe in the IATI dataset we can find actually something very interesting is that there were some IATI activities that had transactions to a kebab store. So that could be part of seeing, hey, what is IATI actually being used for? How could this be interesting? And yeah, I think there's without getting too much into the completely technical side of AI and everything that's available, I think that there's at least 100 plus ways of that we can keep going about this. So we'll keep it to these three. But yeah, there's I think there's a lot to do, and I see in the chat someone having or someone linking to the topics awesome, which is a very nice comprehensive list of AI models. But we could gather our thoughts together as the IATI community, and maybe as the IATI technical working group, to start making a list of objectives with or connecting AI and IATI to think, hey, what do we as a community need, and what do we want to get started on, and who's going to take charge of it? Is it going to be private organizations? Is it going to be led from the IATI secretariat itself? So yeah, interesting future.
Okay, thanks a lot, Sylvain. I really appreciate, because you mentioned about the natural language processes, and NLPs are what I was presenting on during this conference, and just looking at it, the impact it can have on businesses in Africa, and knowing that we have an array and eclectic of our cultures and languages. How can we be able to harness on the NLPs that are there, and using NLPs and be able to make better on the decisions that we're making? If you go to Syria, making sure that the Arabics, you're able to harvest or work on the different languages that are spoken there, and you're able to meet the needs of the people that are there using the AI technologies. If you're doing an intervention, that is some of the things that we can always look at with the technical working group. So over to you, Madam Petier. What is some of the specific uses you can see in AI techniques in geospatial data, because you're in the geospatial world right now, that can be useful and linked to IATI data?
Thank you, Winnie. Thank you so much. I really like that we started with what is AI, because I've run some sessions on this, and people go from like, oh, it helps me do my work faster, or like really simplifying like what it does for people, and picking up on what Sylvain was just saying, and I'll try to connect that of, okay, IATI data, a lot of open data. What we specifically work on is open geospatial data, and I think there's loads of opportunities of making sure we make that connection. I was really excited to see also on the data story you're using OpenStreetMap layers. I've done 3 slides just to kind of show you maybe some of the links at a high level, but the main thing that I wanted to share, and I know my colleague who is an expert in AI is not here, is one of the models we work on, and like some of the really important practices that I think are quite relevant when we talk about like the focus of the countries where we work on, and kind of thinking of a more localized approach. So working in open data, open geospatial data, one thing at the humanitarian OpenStreetMap is, again, we focus on very similar regions where I know IATI's partner countries are based, and where a lot of the data is generated in OpenStreetMap. what's the mission? And hopefully that connects a lot to what we do. I think with IATI data, right? Like, how are we using the data to inform decisions? How are they utilized? How are we focusing on the logo? So linking this to AI, right? There's so much discussion on AI, like different models and discussions. And one product, and I can tell you in more detail that we are focusing on, is actually when we talk about assisted mapping. So this is more about generating data that's relevant and training those models. But the things that I wanted to bring and maybe to kind of open for discussion and whatever is at the moment, like in IATI being used in AI models, and I think that's quite unique for us, for instance, at Humanitarian OpenStreetMap, but also for IATI, is like, what are the challenges and what are the kind of added thing that we are trying to address? So some of the models, for instance, that we've used specifically for AI-assisted mapping are not fully free and open source. So they're like the way that they're trained, you know, you're getting more data in, the models are trained. But what we're trying to focus on now for this AI-assisted mapping is really to involve our like community managers in training those models and having that more open. And for those who are like more technical and would want to know more or get involved, I can share that like links to GitHub and all that. But I think, to me, I wanted to share this because I think that is really relevant to kind of overall like AI discussions, like connecting the data sets, but also thinking about like localization and like biases in those models and how we as a community can be more involved. And there are things that, you know, I'm happy to share in more details about getting people more involved in training those models, specifically for one of the areas that we work on. Back to you, Winnie.
Okay, thanks a lot, Petra. You brought in a really important thing. And one of the challenges that we can look at is the bias in terms of the models that are created because of the data sets. AI is powered by data. Without data, then AI is just there. And like one mentioned that there's a quote that was mentioned that AI is electricity that is powering us, powering the technologies that we have. So I'm just looking at what, and I'm just looking at the conversations on the chat right now, and I'm really glad. Allow me to just go through some of the chats that have been dropped in. Before Jonathan, there was Nicholas Dickinson, who says, is there something like an awesome list of AI and IATI? And gives us a link to the GitHub topics. Awesome. And then we have Mr. John Adams. Hey, this guy, he's the father of IATI, one of the fathers of IATI. He's an OG. You have to respect him. So who do you recommend we follow to be inspired about the use of AI in the development space? Who is leading this space? Wow, that's a very important question. Nicholas Dickinson also says, has anyone tried to use ChatGPT to produce IATI outputs from project reports, accounts? Are there some good examples? Is this a good approach? And then Alex Miller, sorry, just give me a second. I'm just scrolling through. Alex Miller, your message is not coming through for me, but anyway, I'm just gonna read it in 1 second. Oh no, Alex Miller says it's okay, but I kind of missed the Alex Miller comment. But Rolf Cliff, I know this is another OG of IATI. Next week, Connected by Data is leading a design lab to develop resources for effective and inclusive public deliberation on data and AI governance, where we'll try to gather resources to answer the what is AI question, and also looking at who is leading this conversation in AI. Is IATI leading this conversation on AI in development? Can we be the leaders that who will be able to shape in terms of development conversation of AI? And yes, and that makes it sound that makes me sound really old. Oh, sorry, OG Adams. Has anyone tried to use ChatGPT? Very interesting. I didn't get the conversation by anyway. Sorry, Alex Miller, I can't find your conversation, but anyway, we'll get it later. So these are some of the conversations that are going on the chats. Please just drop in your question, drop in your comments, what you think. Like now we just talked about, and one of the challenges that Petya talked about was bias. And it has already been mentioned here on the comments, like there'll be a conversation looking at some of the biases that are coming up. Okay, to all of you who are in the panel right now, with no particular order, can you tell us, can you outline some of the key risks in terms of ethics and trust you see in AI and how the IATI community can navigate them? Are there any risks that you think that need to be addressed right now as we are starting out with these new emerging technologies? So we can start with.
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry, I'll jump in because I thought it would be nice to link this this ethics dilemma to one of the questions in the chat, which is using natural language models to produce IATI outputs, actually converting a published report about some activity from any organization, converting that into an IATI data set. And that's a super interesting objective. It's stuff that we at Zimmerman have messed around with, basically. And the very important thing to consider here is the creativity of these models. This goes for both publishing or creating IATI data from just the textual reports, as well as trying to do, for example, aggregations or specifically finding subsets of data that fit your criteria. And with these natural language models, it's always the creativity of the model that you need to really specify. And you need to really specify the context. If you do a very general, here's my text, create an IATI activity for it, it will maybe create a IATI version 1. And if we provide a full XLSX for the standard that we want our version 2.03 IATI activity to look like, it will give even better results, but maybe it will just fabricate some budgets. So the idea is then to really fine-tune these creativities, constantly iterate over these steps that you are working on. And yeah, the ethical data use is very important there.
Okay, thank you, Sylvan. Sorry, I'm cutting you short because we need to hear from the group what their concerns are about AI, especially using IATI data. And Brent, just 1 minute, please, so that we can open it up to the group, please. Do you have mistrust on and ethical concerns on AI? You're on mute. You're on mute, Brent. Can somebody help unmute Brent? He's still on mute. Petya, please go ahead before we unmute Brent.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, one quick concern is that, as IATI becomes more visible to the broader humanitarian community, international development community, nonprofits, sort of the generic nonprofits all around the world are going to want to use IATI as well. And I think this has been a discussion for a long time about opening up IATI and what are the impact of that. And, we'll have the potential of more of bad actors and deep fake images added to IATI. And, this thinking about AI and how AI can process IATI data, it's going to be an interesting challenge for the entire community to increase the usage of IATI and the application of IATI data and expand the framework, use of the framework, but it'll introduce other challenges, coupled with AI's ability to process this information. So it's something we need to approach.
Okay, so when more and more, when the visibility of IATI data comes out, then we'll have many challenges, and we need to be on top of the game when they come in. Petia, please go ahead. 1 minute.
I'll be very short. I'll just build on what Brent was saying. And I think, yes, more openness and more like transparency and visibility. So I think it's even more important, the point about inclusivity and who is involved in training those models. And like, I think to me, that's like really important at this phase. And like, who are the people who actually can understand, build in, and yeah. Over, back to you, Winnie.
Thank you very much. Okay, so before I go, I ask, you can raise your hands, and I know Annalise will be checking out for me who was the first one, but as Annalise is helping me out on that, Abbas Kagbo is asking on the chat. I asked ChatGPT just now for data. This is what it says. I'm sorry, but I don't have real-time data access, including IATI data. My training only includes information available up until January 2022. For the most recent and specific IATI data for Sierra Leone in 2022, I recommend checking the IATI registry, and it gives a link, or the official website of the organization or government agency. Additionally, you may contact relevant international organizations, NGOs, or the Sierra Leone government for the latest information on aid data. Oh, thank God, they've not received IATI data yet. Elma Jan says, hi, I've been using AI to generate SQL queries to extract tailored IATI data. Using AI for writing database queries is very effective, but I have found I have to know which column I want ahead. Yes, you have to be very specific in your prompts, especially with ChatGPT and Bing AI. If you just want generic information, it will give you generic. But if you're specific in your prompt, then it will give you really specific details that you really want. Petia, thank you for sharing the link. Cliff, somebody is asking you, how can I join this lab? Petia, you have a question. What do you think IATI could learn from OSM's experience? Cliff says, I think it's full, but you could try Emily at connectedbydata.org, who is coordinating logistics. So this is very, very beautiful. Okay, let's go to the field. Let's go to the field. Now I'm taking you to the field. Questions and concerns. Raise your hand, please. Okay, I see one hand, and that's on the list. Please go ahead.
I was only just being the timekeeper, just wanting to hear from others, but recognizing that there's 4.5 minutes. So please, everybody.
Oh, thank you, our timekeeper. Oh my God, when you're talking about interesting things, time flies so fast.
Yeah.
I'm seeing
some wonderful comments in the chat, and we are of course collecting those, and we will make sure that both the links that are shared there and some of these great comments and suggestions are made available to people afterwards. But just any last thoughts around the room beyond the panel would be great.
Petia, sorry, Annalise. Petia can go ahead and answer our OG John Adams.
I was just typing, so I can say I think I'm going to repeat myself, but I think with OpenStreetMap communities, it's such a wide network of people involved. Like, I'm based in the UK, so it's like the great work of a lot of, like, we're an organization of 100 people, but it's a number of like volunteers and communities who have the knowledge. So to me, whether it's in the context of AI and training models, is really working locally. Like, the example that I use is, okay, you train how to predict buildings in a specific country. There are differences there. So to me, I think that's, we talk a lot about it, but I think in practice is really important to have this like localized approach, and whether it's also capacity building or inclusivity. But I think there are some great examples of like my colleagues and people I work with in the countries that I shared.
Thank you, Petia. Okay, Nadine Levin, you said the humanitarian sector AI use cases. are potentially highly sensitive, e.g. working with the vulnerable populations like the displaced people? Are there recommendations on how to use this new technology with healthy skepticism without getting swept away with the fear of missing out? Yeah, FOMO is real. Alex Miller, finally, I get your comment. And you say, for sensitive data, I recommend running open source models on local or private hardware. I've had a lot of success running last generation LLMs for a couple of different tasks. If you haven't heard of it, Hugging Face is a great repository of these open source models. And he also gives the link to the Hugging Face.
Winnie, I don't see a hand there, but I do see that John has put his camera on. So I wonder, John, were you going to jump in there with the last thought in 2 minutes?
Yes,
Yep.
the OG himself.
No, I was just turning my camera on so I could smile at Petya, that's all, and say encouraging things about her answer. So thank you.
Oh, I thought you were going to tell us some really words of wisdom. Okay, cool. Thanks, Mr. John. So final remarks from Brent, like half a minute or
yeah. Just one quick thing. Students at Stanford, they've been asking us for hundreds of questions that humanitarian actors might like to ask using IATI data. And so right now, for training and fine tuning, one thing that people can get involved in is we've organized some promptathons, and we're just trying to crowdsource any questions that might be relevant to you and humanitarian operations, what you might like to do and might like to learn using IATI data. So this is one way we can all get involved and participate in training these models.
Okay, promptathons. The first time I'm hearing promptathons. Mr. Sylvan, kindly.
Yeah, it was, and also I think I've answered all of the questions I wanted to answer, so I'm good to go.
You're good to go. Thank you. Petya?
I don't know what conclusion. I made a point of localization, but also I really want to kind of have more collaboration between different data sets. Maybe that's what I'll kind of end with. I think there's a lot of power, with AI, but also making sure that we have this kind of localized approach, but also connecting, whether it's with OSM, and I know with Brent, we talked about maybe doing some examples, but yeah, connecting the different spaces for sure.
Okay, thanks a lot, Petya. And Rolf Cliff says, as an observation, a lot of AI hype is about people interacting with AI tools, but not a lot is done yet about how AI can help people interact with each other. We've done a pilot with OpenAI on that, and he shares the Loom link there, so everyone can go in and see what kind of work they've done with OpenAI. And for me, from Annalise, before I just conclude, Annalise, you want to take the floor or it's an old hand?
No, I was just going to recommend that you conclude.
Okay, cool. So kindly, if you have any other thing, this was a fireside chat. I mean, you saw it was so light. It wasn't heavy. So kindly contact the Secretariat if you're interested in AI issues that you'd like to discuss, and you want to join the technical working group and discuss, or even just bring in ideas on how you can use IATI data, please contact Annalise, contact Sanders, as in like the team is there for you. And I believe they'll share the email or the text. Yeah, thank you, Catherine Brennan. And then look at IATI Connect also, and thank you all. And for me, I'd like to say that from a futuristic perspective, would like to have more data coming from Africa, coming from the continent, and being able to model and being able to run some of these tools that we have, so that we are able to overcome some of the biases that we find if you're using some of these tools. So from us here, all from the fireside chat, I hope you had a beautiful time with us, and we'll see you next time in VCE 6.
Thank you, Winnie.
Asanteni sana. That means thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you back in the lobby.
See you in the lobby, guys.
Thank you.
Move us back to the lobby.